Hi sir, my name is Saul Imran. Sir, hi sir, my name is Saul Imran. I have completed my graduation from BTech Mechanical Engineering.
Hello. Hi, sir. Good morning. My name is Sai Krishna. I completed my graduation in Mahatma Gandhi University in the Triple department. I completed my software testing course. That's all about myself, sir.
Morning, everyone. Welcome to Encode IT. Welcome to today's session on REST APIs with Jersey framework. I think you all can hear me good, right? While the session is going on, it's like it will be good if I get a response from you all. You can either unmute yourself or you can keep messages in the chat window, or you can raise your hands. You can hear me, right? You can all. I think.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, fine. So like before going to start, let me introduce myself. I'm Pujita Kadiyala and I have like 6 years experience of working as a full stack web developer. Apart from working as a professional, I also do have experience of teaching full stack web development and cloud computing, AWS and stuff. Okay, let's quickly get into the topic. Today our session is REST API with Jersey and Spring Boot, like two different frameworks, how we can build REST API on these two different frameworks. We'll discuss about it. So yeah. And also, like, if you like in the middle of session or somewhere, if you got some doubt or you want me to like continue a little bit slower, then you can just stop me and ask your doubt, or if you want to talk something, you can. Yeah. Any response from your side is like, yeah, supported. And you can discuss whatever doubts you have while the session is going on. Okay, you can all see my screen, right? So before discussing about API, we will see first what is a web service. Have you heard this word before? Web service. Can anyone say what it is? What is a web service? Have you heard this word before? No.
Servicing website.
Sorry.
Servicing websites. Management websites. This is called web service.
Okay, managing
Websites. Some
okay,
protocols.
managing websites. Okay. Okay. Okay, you got all the terms correct. And yeah, a service available by web. Nice. Internet service. Nice. Okay, very good. You all are giving some responses. I appreciate it. So it is like communication between two systems, or like software which supports machine to machine interaction over a network. Let's say there is one system, that is system 1, and let's say there is system 2, which are like at two different locations. If they both want to communicate, how do they communicate in general? Over the internet, right? That is the only way we can communicate. We can establish a communication between any two systems that are not in the same location. So communication in the sense that maybe you can see my screen, right? So communication means what? That maybe you can
Thoughts. Sharing images, audio, video.
Yeah, very good. Transferring files, you can say, or requesting for a resource. Requesting for a resource, that may be anything. That may be from a file or from database, you are requesting something. So all this like all this communication happens on a port. So again, another word. What is a port? Anyone? What is a port? Have you heard this port number?
8080, madam. It is a HTTP port.
8080 is a port number. And what is port number?
Port number 8080, madam.
8080 is a port number. I'm asking, what is a port number?
It is a sum of protocol, madam.
Protocol. Okay, and anyone else? What is a
For
port
each
number?
service, there is a special port number.
And what is it? Like, how do you define it? Like, let's say someone asks you, what is a port number? How do you define it? Okay. So it is like a location on internet, you can say. Yeah. A particular endpoint, an endpoint, or a location where you are communicating. You are establishing your communication at that port or at that location, at that endpoint. You are selecting both the client and like whatever the two systems that were communicating, they were communicating at a particular location on the internet, and that we call it as a port or port number. So using that port number, both both the systems that send the request or while receiving the response, we use that port number. I think I'm getting some responses from yours. Yeah. You are not getting the audio, someone? I think the remaining people can hear me. If remaining people can hear me, then it might be your microphone or sorry, there is a problem with your audio. Check it out. And then, okay, again, here we are. So what is a web service now? It is like a communication between two services or two systems over a particular port at a particular port or a network. And then you can say the system 1 and system 2. Instead of calling it system 1 and system 2, we can say client and server. So this is client, let's say, and this is server. Okay. So how do you define it? How do you say this system is client? How do you say this system is server? You all heard about this client and server? Client is the one which is requesting for something, and server is the one giving response back to that client. So like when one system is requesting, so the one which sends the request and server is one which will gives the response. So if both systems communicate in this way, in which way? In request and response manner, we call that as client server architecture. I'm just what I'm doing is, you all know these terms, but to have a good understanding of these terms, I am again explaining these terms particularly. Okay. So whenever someone says client server architecture, it means when the request response thing is going on between those two systems, then we call it as a client server architecture. And yeah, I get some. You are all not getting my voice?
Yes, madam.
Okay. Some people saying they are not able to hear me. All the remaining people can hear me, right? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Okay. Thank you for the response. Gangadhar, I think from your side there is a problem. Check it now. Okay. Thank you all. We will continue. Where were we? Yeah, we are at a web service. We are discussing what is a web service. So, and for this communication to happen, there are some certain rules, or let's say there are certain standards. This communication should happen this way. This communication should follow these guidelines while communicating for exchanging data. That comes under web service too, and we call them as some protocol. There are some open protocols. And what is a protocol? What does the term protocol mean?
Set of rules, madam.
Yeah, very good. Set of rules. So there are some rules that need to be followed while communicating over internet. And for example, you all know those protocols. Give me some examples of protocols for networking. HTTP. Is it a protocol or not?
Yes, madam. FTP, UDP.
Yeah. TCP.
TCP.
Okay. Yeah, very good. Very good. Thank you for all your response. So you all know about these protocols. What is a protocol? So that means that is some rules to be followed while communication. Now now let me. You all heard about API. What is an API? Don't tell me its full form. Tell me
Application Programmable Interface, madam.
what is it?
Uh,
What is an API? So we discussed web service, right? And now what is API? Okay, I'm getting some responses, I guess.
It is a communication
API
between
to
the
fetch data from the server. Interface, yeah, very good. Yeah, mediator, very good. Yeah, very good. Yeah. Okay. You all know about everything. Someone's on a very message. Okay. So yeah. So as you all said, it is an interface. It is a software interface between the client and the server. So which will allow us to communicate. Okay. So this interface will allow us communicate, and what is this interface? It is nothing but a method. A method you write. A method. And whenever I say there is a communication happening between two systems, it is nothing but communication between two systems is nothing but it is between two programs. Two programs you write on different machines. Okay. Let's say I said server, client and server. So what you write some program and one system one, and you write another program and system two, and you write a method on one system which will request the resource that is on other system. You got my point? You all got my point? So let's say you write one program in this, and there is another program in this. So communication between two systems means it is nothing but communication between two different programs. You write this program. In this program, you write a method. Just now I told you, API is nothing but the method you write. So you write a method. You all know the methods, class. You all know these basic things, right? So you write a method to request some data from the system to. That is what we call it as API, which is an interface which will allow you to connect to that system, to communicate with that system. That is what we call it as API. Did someone ask me? I'm not audible. Communication. Okay. Yeah, I can repeat it. Where you want me to repeat API? I'm saying that API is an interface, a software interface. Web service is like the total thing, the overall communication, how the communication should happen following certain protocols. API is a software interface. In general, if I need to talk in general, it is a method written in one system or by one programmer to request some data from other system. Okay, so you got what is API, right? And it is like the communication program, a method which someone said something. Okay, so now again we got different APIs. We got different APIs in this in our programming. And right now we are learning about REST and not others. Why? Why you need to learn REST API? We do have SOAP API. SOAP, you all heard about SOAP? SOAP, REST, SOAP. Have you heard these words? Yeah, I'm getting some responses.
No, madam.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine. Even if you don't know, it's fine. Okay. So yeah. So I told you all, like method API is nothing but a method, right? So you are writing that method following some rules again, or like following some specifications. So like this, there are two APIs which will support us to communicate with other systems, REST and SOAP, which are like widely known. And assume that these are two different names. Okay, right now I'll explain everything. Sorry, REST and SOAP APIs. These were the two APIs which were like widely known and widely used by everyone. And right now we are learning about REST API and not SOAP API. That is because this SOAP is the first. Actually, REST is like not the first one. SOAP API is the first one that is introduced. REST came into picture like after a long time after SOAP got released. And this SOAP, what happens is it has so many rules. Like REST doesn't. I'm not saying REST doesn't have any rules, but SOAP is like kind of very strict. Very strict in, whenever I say very strict in, what does it mean? Like many rules to be imposed, many protocols you need to follow. Like it should be in some format, it should be in this kind of format. If you want to communicate with other system, your program or your request should be in this format, and you need to send it in this in this length. Those kind of what say rules which will follow like a strict standard to allow communication. Otherwise, communication is not allowed. And apart from that, it uses more bandwidth, and that is because it provides more security actually. That is why to request and response it takes so much long time. It takes long. So it's kind of not very much efficient compared to REST. REST is like it has some rules to be followed, but it is not too strict. It doesn't follow any strict standard principles to allow communication, and easy to implement actually. Okay. So that is why we are choosing REST over SOAP right now. Okay. Yeah. So, and whenever a web service is following REST principles, we call it as a RESTful web service. Okay, let me explain what is REST and what is SOAP. So REST full form is, have you heard REST before, REST word before or not? No problem, even if you don't have any knowledge of this.
State transfer.
Yeah. Okay. And SOAP, which is right now necessarily, I mean, it doesn't require, but I will say for you. It has like built-in security and like some transaction compliance, which will make it slower and heavier compared to REST. We can, as needed, we can implement this REST. That is why we are choosing REST over SOAP. Now these two are APIs. Okay. I discussed about what is an API and two different types of APIs we have, REST and SOAP. Okay, right, up to now everything is clear, right? If you have Doubts anywhere, just keep the message in the chat window or unmute yourself and you can talk. Anything is allowed. Okay. So I'm moving to the next topic, which is RESTful web service. So in REST, what happens? It will follow client server architecture. We'll discuss it later. The RESTful web service. And what is a RESTful web service? So any web service which will follow the principles of REST. You can say a web service which follows the principles of REST is termed or is said to be a RESTful web service. And what are those principles again? We will discuss them soon. Okay. So right now, REST will follow client-server architecture. Client-server architecture, I told you there are two systems. One is termed as a client, another one is termed as a server. I will show you the picture like this. If you can all see my screen. Yeah, one is the client, other one is the server. So a request and response are sent using some protocols. You all know the communication or the internet means some protocols need to be followed. That may be HTTP, TCP, UDP, we all know, right? So REST mainly works on HTTP. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, REST stands for representational state transfer, and the protocol for while using REST is HTTP. We'll use the protocol HTTP while implementing or while building RESTful APIs. Yeah, and yeah, we will discuss the principles of REST. There are some principles, as I said, not many more rules. The principles like the common qualities. Whenever you write a program, you need to, what are the things you need to include in your program and what are the rules it will follow. The rules or principles of REST. One is the uniform interface. And what is a uniform interface? URI. Have you heard this word URI before? Uniform resource interface. Yeah, someone is saying something. Yeah. No, yeah, it's fine. It's part of your URL. Okay, part of URL. And what does it say? What does it contain? Okay, let me explain that. So whenever, as I said, client will request some data to server, right? Every time, not just a single. What happens whenever you establish a connection between two systems? There are several requests that will happen. One time you'll request, let's say you will request from ID. Second time you request some, you want to open the login page. Let's say you all use Instagram, Facebook, right? So one time you will click on like edit profile, or another time you will click on feed. These are all nothing but requests, right? You are requesting the Instagram server to get some response. So whenever you click on that edit profile option, you are able to edit your profile, and whenever you click on the feed option, you are able to see your feed. So these were all the requests. You are requesting the server, whatever the server. So when this communication is established between this client and server, there is some common thing. Let's say, how does it happen? Let's say HTTP. You are let's say you are communicating on this port 8080, and you are requesting Instagram server. what is okay. First time you will say you want to log in the first thing, in the first request, let's say you want to log in, and in the second request, let's say you want to view edit profile like this. It will how it looks like, and the third time you want to say view feed. What is a common thing you observed here? It is a common thing, right? This is the thing. So you are requesting using URL, you are requesting the server. So your client, you are the client. So whenever you click on that, this URL will be sent to Instagram server. Okay. And what is a common thing whenever you try to request this Instagram every time? This is the common thing if you see in every scenario. So you call this as URI, which is a part of URL and which is a common let's say message or like a common which contains the port number and which contains the address of the server. So it will be common to every request you send to the server. So whenever you write two programs, as I said, you establish communication between two clients and server. Let me show you how this you are, how you declare. I mean, ignore everything. Just see whatever I highlighted. Okay. So this is like this. You will declare a string. You will declare the common URI, which will be common in every request. You will declare it like this. Okay. Let's say you are requesting, you are establishing communication with the server on your system itself. You all know Tomcat web server, right? Sometimes when you want to perform this client and server on your machine, on your local machine, how do you do that? You will happen to install server on your system and you will establish the communication between your system and that server. That is what you call localhost 8080. So when you want to communicate the server on your system itself. So this is what I want to tell you is you will declare a string like this. You will declare whenever you are writing a REST, first thing before starting a method on your client side where you write this method, you will declare a string like this. This is the first rule. Okay, you all got it. What is a URL? Whenever you're requesting for a resources that may be anything, that may be a database, that or maybe a file like this. If you want to log in any request, you are requesting for a resource on the server side, there is the common URI, this common thing. You need to declare it first, and that is common for every request you send, not to different server. I'm talking about one server. That means let's say one server in the sense one system you want to communicate, where the communication happens. If this is not like, and that this is different for when you are using the Facebook, like different servers. You all got my point, right? When you're discussing with one kind of server, the URI will be common to all the requests that were sent to that server. Okay, up to now everything is clear, right? First rule, let's make it one. Okay, URI is uniform resource identifier. So resource identifier, it will identify your resource, or it will identify your server. Okay, so this will be common to every request you make in this client server architecture. Okay, you all clear until now? Everything is clear, right?
Yes, ma'am. All clear.
Okay. And the second one is, what is the second one? Client server architecture. That all client server. So for a REST to work properly, or for REST, if you want to build REST API on your system, it should have client server architecture. That means request response architecture again, or request response, the way it should be like one system should be requesting and the other system should be giving you the response. Okay, and you all know this point too. Okay, uniform interface, and the first one we discussed. If you see, let me uniform interface. Specific resources should be identified in the internet using the common URL. And the client server architecture, using this URL, you are going to request the server. That is what the request response architecture is. And this third one is statelessness. Statelessness. Have you heard this word before? Stateful, statelessness. There are two different things actually. And this rest is like while requesting in there are two types of requests you are going to make to a server. One is statefulness and the other one is statelessness. So have anyone heard about these two terms before? Sorry for
No, ma'am.
yeah. Okay, fine. Okay. So I'll give you I'll explain two examples. Listen carefully. Like not too tough. Let's discuss about Instagram, which you all know. I think everyone uses these days, right? So let's say there is one person called Bob. Right now I'm discussing about stateful and what does a stateful request mean. Okay, let's say there is a person called Bob. He is sending some requests to Instagram. Instagram server. This is Instagram server. Assume it as an Instagram server. In Instagram server, we have login first thing, and the other one is view profile. Okay, and is connected to database of the users, all the users. So this is how the architecture is. Right now, Bob is requesting to log in. So whenever you are trying to log in, what is the first thing you need to do? You need to provide your password and you need to provide your username. And the request goes like this: HTTP followed by Instagram server. Let's say server for now. Followed by you want to log in, and username is Bob, and password, let's say Bob1. So this is the request he sent to the Instagram server. So this is a request Bob sent to Instagram. I mean, whenever you click on the login button, this is what going to happen in stateful request. Along with the URL itself, what we are passing the username and password, and it will what happens again, login will happen. Now actually what happens is, in this server there is a variable, variable, right? Let's call it as logged. We call it as actually session variable, and that variable name I'm calling you log. So whenever initially it will be false, whenever Bob gave his username and password and the logging is completed, this log becomes true. This variable will be inside this server. Okay, you can see my screen right now clearly, right? Initially logged variable is false, and whenever this Bob logged in, logged becomes true. Up to now everything is clear, right? This is in server 1. This is the Instagram server he requested. Okay, now let's discuss about another scenario. How many users do you think use the Instagram? Millions probably, right? And for all those millions of servers, do you think only one server would respond back? Is it possible? Let's say You all use Flipkart, Amazon, Myntra, right? And yeah, so one server is like not at all enough, and there are for millions of requests, millions of people will send billions, trillions of requests, and for all those requests to be handled, you need to have like bunch of very large amount, huge amount of servers, right? So for example, Instagram, there is another server. Okay, right now Bob logged in, it's fine. And this server one, let's say this is server one, it stored this stateful, I told you statefulness, right? This is, so it stored logged equal to true in server one because Bob requested that server using username and password and he logged in. That's fine. Now I'm talking like there is a case where there is not at all one server, there are more than one server. In most of the cases in large applications, that is, we call it as actually load balancing. We call that balancing the load, like when heavy load comes from the client side, that means when many users were requesting, what happens is there were several servers on the server side. So this load balancer will actually will redirect your request to different servers based on the load. Let's say the first 10 requests it sent to server 1, and this load balancer, whenever the 11th request came, it will redirect that to next server, like that. I mean, there will be some logic. Based on that logic, it will redirect to that particular server's the request. So let's say now in server 1 that logged is true. Okay. Now again he logged in, that's fine. Now as he want to update his bio or update his profile. Now he clicked on view profile, but for the second time when the request was sent, again HTTP server view profile. Okay, now the request was sent, but now unfortunately it was redirected to server 2. Now this request got redirected to server 2. In server 2 is logged equal to still true? No, right? In server 2 logged equal to false, because only in server 1 it got updated. What happens now? Again, when you click on view profile, it will ask for your credentials, which is like the worst case scenario. Let's say you want to view your feed, it will ask your credentials. If you want to message your friend, it will ask your credentials. How would it is a bad user experience, right? No one would recommend it. No one would recommend using it. You want to do a single action, it will want to authenticate you, because server 2 don't know who Bob is. So it will try to authenticate again. It will try asking user profile, user credentials again. So it is like a very like it is not bad user experience. You all understand this example, right? So it will probably give you a bad user experience, because the thing you need to observe here is server storing the details or server storing the session variable of the user is not an efficient method, because one time request is not always transmitted to the same server, redirected to the same server. Based on the load balancer, it will redirect it to different servers. So all servers can't store this login details, right? Only the server which happened to be used while logging in, that server stores this session variable as log true. Remaining all the servers were don't know who this Bob is. So every time this request got redirected to another server or any other server in that on the server side, he needs to log in again, which is not recommended. So for larger applications where many servers are used, this stateful request method is not recommended, because saving the state of the user whenever he visits the site for a specific duration is probably it's a good idea, but actually when the application is big and when there are more servers, it won't work. So statefulness stores the session variable. Session variable logged equal to true, logged equal to false, like that. A variable is maintained. We call it as session variable. So this scenario fails, and I explain why. In which cases this scenario fails? In larger applications. Even small applications these days use more than 2 servers, 3 servers. Okay, I got some. But there is an internal connection between. Not audible? Yeah, even if there is an internal connection between 2 servers, as you said, how do you manage to transfer your session variable of that particular user? How do you do that? At the same time, let's say Alice, there is another person, Alice is requesting. He is requesting to log in. And how do you say this person, Bob, is already logged in, Alice haven't logged in? This is like what happens here if you establish communication between servers on this thing too. See, the cost is more. Cost is happening more. The communication wastage of time, wastage of network. If the communication, if you establish communication between servers also on this thing, what happens? Cost of communication is not an easy thing, right? And then again, many requests between servers handling the request is a big thing. And again, communication with other server means it is again like not an efficient thing. It happens, but it is not an efficient thing. Okay, so whenever this load balancing happens, multiple servers will use. In that case, the scenario fails. Okay, now yeah, so this scenario fails in larger applications. Why? Because scaling is not possible. Scaling means scaling means what? Let's say there's one server, and based on if the load increases, as a Flipkart is there, right? In Flipkart, we'll have Big Billion Day sale, Amazon Great India sale. At that time, what happens? Heavy load comes at a time. So at that time, they will scale. So the request, they expect, okay, in these days, request will be high. The request rate will be high. So they'll scale the application. They'll increase the number of servers. They'll allocate more servers to the client. So what happens? The load, whatever the load that is happening on the server side, will reduce. If you increase number of servers handling the request, automatically the load will be balanced. So that is what scaling means. So scaling is not possible in this statefulness. And let's say statelessness, which will be followed by rest. You need to remember. And what happens in that? Okay. Let's take again another example. This time, let's say there is a person called John. Now, this is the load balancer, and we have different servers. Server 1, server 2, let's say, and server 3. Okay. Again, the same thing happens. I'm not entering again. The login, he will send the login request again. The same request, like here, if you see, okay, let me. Here, the same thing. Instead of Bob and Bob1, he will be sending his own username and password. That is a URL. First time he's sending to the server. John is sending the same request to log in into the server. And now what happens is, first he logged in, that's fine. He logged in successfully. to server 1 that got redirected. So whenever this request from John is redirected to server 1, it will create a token and it will assign the token to that John. We'll call, let's say, token ID for every client. Let's say token ID equal to 123. Okay, so this will so let's say again he want to view profile. Now the second time he want to view the profile, he will send this load balancer send this request right now to server 2. What happens is whenever this request is sent, the token ID is attached to that request, and with this token ID it will able and using that token they were able to identify that this request is coming from the same client. So I can handle this. I know I don't need to authenticate again. Okay, and also how many servers, like all the servers, if there is a database, all the servers have the access to the database. Unlike in, I forgot to tell you, in statefulness, only the first server that was there can only access the database. Only one server can access the database. But here in statelessness, all the servers that were there has access to database. Okay, so what happens is this: whenever first request that may be logged in or whatever, any first request sent from a particular client, this server will assign a token to that user. Unlike having a session variable like in the statefulness, here there will be a token ID. So whenever they want to access something, it sends that token ID along with that request. Here, let's say it looks something like there is okay, it is like same HTTP okay, server. He want to edit the profile or something. So let's say token ID equal to 1. So like this, for every request it got attached. It will be attached. So like this, a token ID assigned to every user, so he can make multiple requests. This can be redirected to any server whenever there is a token ID attached to it. Okay, you understand this statelessness? In statelessness, it doesn't store the session or something of the user. It will just assign a token ID. Assign a token to user. Or like this, what even if you increase the number of servers, scaling is possible, right? So whenever there is this this token, he can redirect his request to any server, and that will still work. So scaling to numerous servers is still possible. Assigning token to user will make that possible. Okay. So up to now everything is clear, right? Statefulness and statelessness. So this REST API will use statelessness. Okay. That is the third thing we completed. Everyone else like I can continue, right? To the next point.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, okay, fine. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so the third point is it should be stateless. It doesn't store any user information or sessions information. That is the third rule we need. API and what is the other thing? GraphQL. And how do you think those two are related? Those two are two different things, right? Okay, fine. We will discuss it. Okay. How there were different APIs actually. The REST API, SOAP API. I just discussed about REST and SOAP. There were others too. Those two were the prominently used. But sending data, everything works the same, like in the client server manner only. But the way you send the data differs in everything. That may be this GraphQL or SOAP, REST, everything. Everything works in the same client server architecture, but the way you send the data, that is the way you request. Let's say as I discussed in SOAP, where is SOAP? Yeah, in SOAP you send it in XML format. In GraphQL you use one type of let's say JSON. So the format, it will only allow certain formats for you to request the server. Everything is same, just the way you send the data you request the data and you send the data, the way you get the response back is only different in any API. GraphQL is also an API just like REST, but the protocols it follow, for REST it use HTTP, SOAP it use different kind of HTTPS. There is other thing called HTTPS which will provide more security. So like that, there is a TCP IDP, TCP IP. Different APIs will use different protocols, but among all of them, REST is preferably efficient. And these two are very prominent. Others were like they were introduced, but they were not as success as these two. These two are very prominent, and among them, REST is more efficient for the applications, for business applications, or for enterprise applications. REST is mostly used. That is why we are discussing about REST. Okay. Okay. You want me to? Okay. Can we have access to the sheet that you are sharing? Yeah. Yeah, definitely. At the end of the session, everything every resource will be shared with you. Okay. Okay. We will continue. Okay. So, and yeah, the third thing is completed. And what is the fourth thing? Cacheability. Cacheability. Okay. What is cacheability? Have you heard this cache before? Cache. And what does it mean? Okay, I'm getting some responses. So what has happened? So what does cacheability means? Yeah, storing data on the client side. Okay. Okay. Okay, let me explain. Yeah, you are correct. Storing the data, but let's say user is you all know saving login credentials, right? So whenever first time you log in, it will ask you, can we save this? Or whenever you are trying to log in on a particular website, Chrome will store the login credentials. Okay. Yeah, your responses were almost correct. So it will, you are requesting, whenever you are requesting for the same thing on the server side, same thing, or like the same let's say same file or something, some same resource you are requesting for the same resource, it will actually every request is stored, for not too long. Like every request is stored for a particular session, a particular time. Every request is stored. So whenever this again a request is made, if this request is there in that recent, you can say most recent we'll have, right? So whenever this request is there in that most recent thing, it will instead of hitting the database again, hitting the database means, let's say the database is the last layer. I'll explain this layered structure too. So whenever you are hitting the database again, fetching for the same data, it is like a time wasting, right? So this there is a cache block maintained by it. So whenever the same request is sent, it will first search if the request is there in the cache block. If it is there, it will give the response that is stored in the cache block. In that way, it will save most of the time. Yeah. Okay, sorry, someone said something. Yeah, you are correct. And so, and as it does not store like for too long, there is a certain session maintained by it. For that particular session, it will store that data. For some particular session. So in that time, in that particular time frame, if the again the same request is sent, it will be, the response will be sent from the cache block, okay, instead of from the database. You all clear with this point too? And the third one is the layered system. Yeah. So how the layered system, how this layers we layered system. Yeah, you are right. So the third thing, the final thing is the layered architecture. So how does this layered architecture is there, right? There were 3 different kinds of layers. The first one is like how your request is being transmitted. I'll tell. And there is a form. Let's say there is a website. And this is how you write a program to. There is a form in this. Okay. Let's assume. Just give me a second. Okay. So let's say there is a form and you fill that form, or you are requesting for some data in that form. Let's say you are requesting some information through that form. So the first thing, there are, I said 3 layers, right? The first layer is a presentation layer. The third thing is the service layer, or we'll say business logic, or you will call that as a service layer. And the third thing is the persistent layer. Okay, someone is saying something. Yeah, you got it correct. And this is the actual database. So these many layers, it need to pass your request. I mean, it will be, we will write the program in that manner, where every layer is, where there is a communication between every layer, where there is a connection between every layer. Let's say whatever the request you send through that form will directly hit the presentation layer, or the controller we'll call. So this controller, what it will do is, there will be several requests coming on, right? Several requests, and say sometimes you want to fetch the data, sometimes you want to add additional data, sometimes you want to delete some data, there will be several requests coming on. So it will transfer that particular request to that particular method where that method is implemented. Let's say for this is a controller, let's say. So request will be hitting on this controller. So for adding data, there will be one method, right? Adding data to the database, let's say. For adding data, there is a method called add data to the database. So that method, the implementation of that method, we'll write it in service layer or business logic. Business logic means where the actual logic resides. In that package, assume these three layers are three packages in our program. You all know what is a package, right? Packages, classes, packages, you all know, right? Packages, you don't know packages? In programming, yeah, packages. So assume them as three different packages. One is let's say this presentation layer is one package, business logic is one package, this persistent layer is one package. So in the first package, all the requests will be hitting on that package, and that controller will redirect to your request to that particular method. Yeah. In different packages, as I said, business logic is another package where where there are programs. Everything is a program. Everything I'm talking about is like program, that may be a class, that may be a method we are going to implement. So this controller will hit that will transfer that to that particular method. So let's say there is a request for adding data. So in controller, it will call that method add data, which has implementation in this service layer or business logic layer. We'll write that logic, how to add data to the database. It will have the logic here, actual logic in the business layer. And again, how you call the let's say how you call the database. Let's say there is an employee table, for example, in the database. So this database is directly connected to the persistent layer, where the connection between the persistent layer package and the database, they are directly connected. So whatever the data you want from the employee table, you will have to request this persistent layer again. So this persistent layer will send back the request of that employee. Let's say you want to fetch the data of this employee, and you will write the logic here again, how to call the database again using this persistent layer, and it will send back some response here, and this will send back it to controller, which is here, and that will reflect in your presentation layer, where you submit the form and you'll able to get the response back. So that's how the three layers work. So whenever you want to build a REST API, you will write all your methods inside the controller, here the presentation layer, where the type of request will be coming in. So this kind of layered system you need to have. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you are correct. And okay, so you all understand this, how the different kinds of layers will be there, and how our request and response are traveling through different layers. Okay, so this is the actual structure actually. Okay, so layered system, that is the first layer is a presentation layer. After that, it will be handled to service layer. After that, it will be handled to persistent layer, which is directly connected to database. And this is the requesting goes like this, and again the response, how the response goes like this from right to left. Okay. I think we are now you all clear with all the principles of REST, right? Uniform interface, client server architecture, statelessness, cacheability, layered system. So these are the 5 principles of REST. You need to follow while building the REST. This is the stateful and statelessness, how the session variable is maintained, and how here the token is assigned. If you see, here the database is accessible to all the servers. Here only the one server can access the database in statefulness. Okay. You all just give me a second. Just give me a second. I'll be back once. And the elements of a REST request, like how you build this RESTful API, how you implement it in your program. So there are different parts. The first one is resources. The kind of the request, whatever the request, like the request you are requesting for a particular resource, right? That may be from a database, that may be a file, that may be a kind of status you want to know, and that is nothing but using URI. Using URI, you are requesting for a resource. And the second one is request verbs. So let me tell you one thing. So what kind of operations you can perform on a database? You all know the CRUD operations, right? Basically, you can perform 4 kinds of operations. One is you all got it right. So one is get, like that is fetching for data, and the other one is post, that is adding the data. You all know the difference between post and put? What is the difference between post and put? Okay, very good. Yeah. You are correct. So in post, you will actually create a new data or add the create new data here. But that is in case of put, you will update the existing data. That is the difference actually. And I mean, actually, these are the method names we'll call usually. Get, you will use that word when you want to fetch for data, when you are requesting the database to get some data. It is already there. You want to view that data actually. In that manner, in that case, you will call it as get request. That kind of request you will name. And the other one is delete. As the word says, when you want to delete something, to delete some entry or something from the database. Someone has to mute themselves if they're not talking. Yeah. Someone has to mute yourself, Raghunath. If you are not answering or if you are not asking anything, mute yourself. So, yeah, these are the 4 basic operations anyone can perform on a database. Yeah, very good. You're correct. So yeah, these are the 4 kind of operations you're going to perform on a database. And these are the names given to those requests. So even using REST, while you are building a REST API, you need to provide this. We'll call them as request verbs, basically method names, or you can say. And how you will specify them, I'll show you. First, I'll make you familiarize with the terms. Resources, that is a database or a file or from a website, whatever the server from where you want the resources, that is what you call resources. And request verbs, that is the method name. And request headers, third other one is request headers. So actually what happens is, while you are sending some requests, there are some additional these are some additional instructions. Kind of, let's say you are ordering something on Zomato. You are requesting some food, right, from a restaurant, and there is an option called add cutlery, right, and add something, add a soft drink, some additional things you are specifying while sending your request, right? Like that, while requesting here also there are some additional instructions like my I want response in this manner, I want response in this format, okay, or let's say there are additional okay, only this kind of, I can only send this kind, I'm sending my request in this format. Format means you all know about JSON, XML. Have you heard these words before? No problem, even if you don't know. I'm just saying, I'll explain everything. These are the, what say, okay, very good. Like the formats are, you are entering the request, right? You are sending the request, right? The format, the different kinds of formats, these are the different kinds of format. Plain text, there are so many actually. HTML, the different languages, you different formats you can send your request. So along with your request, there are some additional instructions you can provide in form of headers, that we call them as request headers. Even for response to, there will be some headers. Right now the headers we can specify is request headers we can specify. I'll show you everything. I'm just now making you familiarize with the terms just. Okay, I'll show you everything, how this request headers we are going to send. Yeah. Okay, very good. And the other one is request body. Request body means the actual request, like what do you want to do? Okay, you want to fetch the data or you want to add. For fetching the data, there will be no body because you are just asking the data, you are just requesting. Let's say for login request, you will be sending your credentials. But for view profile, there will be no credentials, right? You are just viewing the profile. Or let's say you want to update your something, update your bio, or you want to post something. For post request, for post and put and delete only, there will be, for delete also there will be no body. For post and put, there will be some request body along with your request. Along with your request means along with the URL, there will be URL, right, for every request. So along with the URL, you will be sending some body. Body in the sense, as I said, if you are adding some new data to a database, you need to send that entry, right? Let's say example, you are adding an employee detail. you want to add a new employee. So adding a new student, or let's say adding a new student to your college database. Then how do you add that new student? You need to you need to add the details of that. You need to add the details of that student to the database, right? Like let's say you need to store his ID. You need to send his ID. You need to send his name, like this. This is an example of request body. That is the information you will be sending along with the request. Wait, I'm getting some responses. Okay. Yeah, you're all correct. So yeah, there are different that may be in different formats. I just mentioned it in this format. And the other one is, so by this the request side got completed. So along with the request side, you will be having a URL to send the request, and you will be, if there is a need of request body, you will have a request body and request headers and request verbs. Okay, here first thing, okay. let's say with A, you will be having URL while sending the request, and the second one is you will be having the request verbs. That is the method names. You need to specify which kind of method you are creating. The third one is request headers. Okay. And the fourth one is request body. I mean, you all need, while building the REST API, you all need to write all of these in your program. I'll show you how. Okay. And the fourth one is everything got completed. Whatever that is needed to send a request. Now, whenever you click on send the request, you'll be getting response body. Response body is that information that is sent from the server. That will be again in this format or HTML format, different kinds of formats. And the last one is the response status. There will be different status codes. You all, like everybody is mostly you, I mean, you encountered this 404, that is page not found. Okay, it comes when there is a some issue on the client side. Let's say you are not authorized to visit that page, or you are not yet authorized to access that page. You will be getting this thing, and there is something that will be starts with 500. That is, there is some issue with the server side. And there will be 200, which is okay, everything is working fine and good. And there is something that starts with 100, which is providing you some information or some messages, like you need to add something else, like that. And there is something starting with 300, which will be redirecting your request to some other page, redirecting to some other website, let's say, or some other URL. In that case, you will be getting the response. These are all the response statuses. So wait, I'm getting, yeah. First response body or response status code. No, there is no first, second, something like that. I'm saying what are the things that were involved in this request response architecture while building REST API. There will be, like, you will be able to see the response. I'll show you it. Here you will be getting the response, and here there will be response code along with it displayed. Okay, there will be no first and second. If the response body is successfully displayed and you got the response successfully, you will be getting some 200 or something. If there is some error on your side, you will be getting something with 400, like that. Okay. And where to use request param, path variable, request. Yeah, I will show you everything. I am just explaining you the terms. I'll show you now how to add all this. Okay. And yeah, these are the first familiar with the terms. These are the methods, you all know. Wait, something got missed here. These are the codes you need to see. As I said, when the code is starting with 1, it is giving us some information. Like you need to add the, see, you can, if you can see on my screen, if you want to make some changes to your request, it will be informing you about something. When it is started with 2, it says a successful message, and when it is 3, it is saying that your page got redirected to some other page. Your page is not going to redirect to page, or let's say they changed that website from that address to another address, then they'll inform you starting with 3 response 4, and 400 and 500 you all know. Okay, again I'm getting some response. Can we get the note? What note? Yeah, I didn't get you. You mean this one? Yeah, everything will be shared with you. Or you want me to? Yeah, that's good. Okay, now you all got familiarized with the terms, right? Now I'll show you an example of get request here. Just see, I'll tell you the terms. Some terms you will be, all the terms we discussed now, I'll highlight them. Just see them and ignore everything else for now. Okay. So first, what is the first term we discussed here? URL, right? Here, the first term is URL. Where did we hear, right? So the common URI for everything, the resource, you need to declare which resource. Here I'm hitting this http bin.org, which is like an open server, which will help us like you can you can perform some operations on it. Okay, it will allow, actually it will allow you to do all those methods. It will be like an open request response service, you can see here. Okay, so I'm using that. Instead of that, if you have a Tomcat web server in your local system, you can use localhost 8080. You can specify the port number on which it is running. Okay, next. And what is the second thing we discussed here? Request verbs. That is, if it is a get request, you need to say get like that. So here, if it is a get request, here actually I'm getting the configuration, I guess. So that is, here it is an annotation, and I'll tell you what is an annotation, and I'll tell you everything. Okay. So annotation. Okay, let's say it now. Why? So can anyone say what is an annotation? What is an annotation? Again. Yeah, of course, I'll do that. Yeah. The thing I am showing you now is the controller. If you see controller.java, I'm using Eclipse IDE. Okay. And the framework, underlying framework for this I'm using is Spring framework I'm using. Okay. Let me write it here. Eclipse IDE I'm using. You can use IntelliJ also. There will be several other IDEs. Oh, wait. Okay, I'm using Eclipse and Spring framework I'm using, and there were several other frameworks that will support REST API. You can use Jersey framework too. I'll show you all that one too. Right now, what you need to concentrate is on how to actually frame a method. Okay. And to override the defined methods. No, we are not overriding any defined methods here. Okay, yeah. Annotations. So annotations will actually will give you an additional information or like a quick info about what it is doing, what the method or what the class it is doing. So this method is like we are using to fetch the data, we are using to get the data from the database. And what is this value means? Actual, if you see here, I think I explained something here. See, this is a URI, right? It is common for everything. And what is this? This is the actual thing you want to hit. Okay. So this will be the value you will say here. If you want to log in, you will say /login. You want to view feed, you will say /view feed. These are all get actually. Let's say you want to post some picture. Then that comes under something like Instagram post. This is the value. So this is will be common for everything. And if you want to get the data, if you want to view the data, there will be some common term you need to say. You will, when you say /get, it will be appended to this URL actually. So after this, whenever you are sending the data, it will process like this. You won't write it here. So whenever you are implementing, whenever you are hitting the request to this method, whenever you want to get the data for this URI, it will append it like this, the value. Okay. And this is the method what is the method? You say get elements, or let's say get employees, whatever the request you want to make. You want to view all the details. Then you will be getting some response from the fruits class. Let's say here there is a fruits class. Assume this is a database. In database, we have all the information about fruits, the ID of the fruit and the color of the fruit is saved. And you are able to see that using this method. Like you want to view all the fruits, you will say get, and you will be getting all the information of the fruits. Okay. So now we saw this get mapping, which is a request verb, and the value, actual value, and the URL. Okay, this is how they'll be there. Okay, I'll show you how to write them. Okay, let me run this. So we will able to see the response, how the response. Wait. It will also give you the port here. If you see, what is the port here? The server starts on 8090. Let's say I want to, okay, someone is asking something. Springboot, it is not Spring, it is Springboot. You can say metadata. Yeah, kind of. Okay. It is Springboot, not Spring. Actually, Springboot is like an extension to Spring. Okay. There were some, there were some benefits of Spring Boot compared to String. That is why they introduced Spring Boot. Okay. Okay. Right now it is running on 8090. I'm getting the day. I'm hitting it. So you will be getting, this is the response. Like this is a common response you will be getting actually. You can use a local host too, 8090, and I kept get. Okay. There is no body since this is a get request. You need to select the what kind of request you will sending. You need to select it here. This is the postman. Okay. Postman. This tool, you will use it to perform this request response thing. To send the request, you will be using this postman. Like how do you say, before actually checking, let's say you are implementing an app, before before it is deployed or before it comes into production, you need to check it, right? You need to check if your application is working or not. So for that, to send request and see the responses, you will be using this postman. It is an extension, or you can download it, or you can add this extension to your Chrome or something. So you need to select what kind of request you are sending here, and you need to enter the URL here. It is a common URI. It is also fine. This is also fine. Both are fine. Okay. This is the local host. I have Tomcat. I mean, in my system, that is why it is working. So this is a common thing. And the get request. For get, there is no body. I'm clicking on send. It is going to send the request, and I will be getting the response. Wait. Okay, I got a response. Okay, now I'll explain everything. This is the request verb, right? And this is the URL and the headers for request. And what are the headers? Request headers. As I said, these are some additional instructions you are going to send along with your request. There are some predefined headers. Accept. Here, accept means what? You see, accept header, why it is used? It is used to tell that any kind of response is accepted. You kept */*. So that means you can add a new header. Let's say accept. You can say application or only JSON format is accepted. You can specify like that. Okay, you can specify your own headers. And yeah, these are some predefined headers along with the request, like the additional information. This is about the request. Now coming back to the response, it says body. So actually this is in JSON format. Okay. The response from the server is in JSON format here. If you can see, it is in JSON format. And the response code, this is the response code, status code. Okay. Wait. It says 200 okay. That means everything is working well and good. So we also use Swagger. Actually, Swagger is not for API testing. It is like to write the documentation, how all this happened, how your like whenever you send some request, what kind of response you will be getting. It is for documentation. You are going to use Swagger. Annotation is a tag which represent metadata. Yeah, very good. Springboot is annotation based framework. Yeah, you all got it correct. Okay, so now we saw the get request, and yeah, this is the body. Let me show. If you can see my screen, see the URL that will be common to everything and the get mapping. And let's see the post. For post, again, another annotation which will be saying that this method is for post request. So here, what happens is is a presentation layer, the controller, right? Here you will be hitting the request. The request will be handled first from here. From here, whenever you say send, that will be here. It is going to hit first. And if you see on the left side, this is the structure of the application. The controller, and ignore everything. Listen to what I just say. And this is a service where the actual implementation will be there. Like for let's say for your methods, this is like for post request, I guess. It is like saving the method body. You implemented that post method here, saving the data. Okay, just a single method I wrote. You have to write logic for every method actually. Let's say post. Okay. For post, oh sorry, this is a post, right? Yeah. For post, you are going. What is the value? It is /post, and it is saying post mapping. This is a Spring Boot framework we are using. In Spring Boot framework, these kind of annotations you need to use. Okay. And yeah, what are we doing? We are actually posting some new data to the server. Let me show you that too. Let's say post. What is the request body we need to send here? We need to send the ID and the color of the fruit, right? You can see here, I showed you fruits. What are the two things that were there of a fruit? String ID and color. Let's say ID is something called apple. This is in JSON format actually. You need to, whenever you are writing a body, you need to select body here, raw body, and the format. And a very important thing I forgot to tell is REST allows all kinds of or all formats of requests, unlike SOAP or any other thing. So this REST, in REST you can request in JSON format, you can request in XML format. You can see in here. You can actually request in a plain text, you can request in HTML format, JavaScript. So all these formats are allowed in REST. But this is not the case with other APIs. Other APIs don't provide this kind of flexibility. Okay. So it will actually allow you all type. Remember this, I forgot to tell you before. So you are sending it. So see, it got added the data that is you send in JSON format to this, and the response is 200. Okay. Let's say I made a mistake, which is the request should be here in which format? Should be in string, right? Because string color. I need to add, see, in database, both are in strings. I need to add strings only, right? If I try to add int, what happens? It is a mistake. Wait. It should be like this. Let me send the request. So which is saying it is not a good, it is a bad request. Okay. And the reason is because the bad syntax. This is about the error. Was expecting double quote. Okay. And there is, when there is an issue with the server, you will be getting the error status, you will be getting the response status code that is starting with 500. And the headers for response to, as I said, there will be response headers too. Content type, in which content the response is getting, the time, date, everything. Okay. You all clear until now? Any doubts? What you need to observe is, see, post mapping, how the flow happens, how the flow is happening, you need to observe that. You are sending some body along with the post request. Forget there is no body. If you observe, forget there are no parameters inside the method. But for post, you will be sending some data. That is why there is a here, see, request body, you are sending some request body. That is why there will be some parameter you are passing through that method, which will be added to the database. In which format you are sending it? In JSON format. These comes in all Spring Boot. While explaining about Spring Boot framework, I'll explain them. Okay. And yeah, someone is saying something. Okay. And it is same with the post and put. Sorry, it is same with put and delete too. Put mapping, for put also you are sending some body, the kind of body you want to update on put. In JSON format again, updating the data, adding the data. Yeah. And for delete, it is delete mapping annotation and the value is /delete. It is in JSON format. You are passing, you're not passing. Okay, you are passing some fruits data because what kind of data you want to delete. You will be providing the ID. Let's say you want to delete the fruit with the ID is specifying saying apple. You want to delete the ID named apple. Then you will be providing that. For delete also there will be a request body. Okay. So these are the 4 methods: get, post, put, and delete. Whenever you send a request, this will hit directly, and in the service, you will write the actual implementation. Let me show you a well implemented service. Give me a second. Let's see, this is a controller REST. Okay, this is another example. Okay, it is the same. Wait, let me show you another example. Yeah. Okay, this is another example. Okay, ignore this for now. So URL and get mapping followed by, you can actually specify anything as you wish. So this will be appended to, finally that value will be appended to that URL, and you are calling the get method. And here the post, you are adding some data, you are adding employee details. There will be employee, so you are adding some employee details to the employee database in JSON format. There was only REST input, I guess. So these are the details you need to include in your request body while posting the request, or while you try to update your details of a particular employee. You need to include these in your in your request body. Okay. Yeah. That is about how the REST API actually includes. This is the request and response we just got. If you see on the Postman, I sent this kind of request body and I got this request response body. Actually, this is the default one that is generated by that http.win.org. If you are writing your own application, you can write your wish, like you can create your own response when you are implementing here. Instead of like this is the default one, right? Like instead of that, you can, let's say, whenever you added this request to your database, you can simply generate a message saying, yeah, data got successfully added, or new employee got added into your institution or organization. Like that, you can simply generate a message. That is all you can write in the service class. Here, everything you write here, instead of all this, you can simply say, yeah, data got successfully added. Like that, you can write the messages, or you can perform your own operations. And these are the response code we already discussed, and I show you where they will be coming here. Okay, and it is the time took for this request response thing, how much time the response you got the response, and this is the data, and if you want to save the response. Okay, everything is clear, right? Till now you got some doubts, or you want me to repeat again, or you want me to show again everything? You can unmute yourself, or you can keep that in the chat. Okay, and advantages of REST, I told you there are no strict standard followed by REST, so it is kind of fast, and it is, it allows all kind of formats, right? So it is kind advantage. Okay. Not only like, if you understand, if someone is like stuck somewhere, you can still ask me, right? I can explain even for one person. So as I said, advantages of REST will be like it allows all kind of data formats, and it doesn't have strict standards compared to other APIs. So it has those benefits, and language and platform independent. In written in any programming language. Right now, in which programming language we are writing? We are writing in Java programming language. Like that, you can implement it in Python or JavaScript, like that, and any platform. This is Windows. You can write it, or you can actually run this program in Linux, right? Like you write this in like one platform, and you can run it anywhere. You could say that is platform independent. So these are the advantages of REST. Now, the Jersey framework, and so to build this REST API, right now I showed you the example of Springboot framework, right? Can you just give me a second? 1 second, I'll be back. Okay, sorry. So yeah, where are we discussing about? Yeah, frameworks, right? So this REST API, you can build this REST API in your application. This REST API is supported by different frameworks actually. Frameworks which allows for to build REST API. So Java itself provides some framework. So there are several frameworks that are provided by Java itself. One of them right now, the most useful one, like there are several. Give me a second. So there are several frameworks provided by Java. I told you Spring Boot, right? Spring Boot is provided. Spring Boot is one framework which we are using right now. No, other than Spring Boot, Java itself, the Java programming itself provides some frameworks like Jersey, and there is something called REST Easy, Retrofit. There are many actually. Most of the companies, they are using the Spring Boot and this Jersey thing right now, because you see the benefits provided by them, the Spring Boot or the Jersey framework. It is efficient actually. When you will say efficient, when you have less to code, whenever you are implementing this REST API, you have more to code, or you need to provide more data, or you need to write manually more. You say it is not efficient. When you have less to code, you just need to provide some details, then you will say it is efficient, right? So yeah, it's kind of. So Jersey is also a framework provided by Java, which will help you, or which will allow you to build the REST API. And these are some other, if you want to know the names, these are some other frameworks which will allow us to build RESTful services in Java. Okay. Now, if you see this, you will understand the framework we'll be using is Jersey framework to build REST APIs, and the business layer, persistent layer I discussed. So if you see, this will be the architecture. Okay. Let me. Okay. So Jersey framework, you'll call it as JAX-ARIS. JAX-ARIS stands for Java API. Again, what is an API? In Java API, it is nothing but it is a package provided by Java. You just need to import into your application, and you are going to implement the methods, or you are going to use the annotations of that package in your program. You need to include them into your program. So JAX-ARIS, you will be importing that package into your program, and then I'll show you. So yeah, so JAX-ARIS is the one it is provided by Java for RESTful web services. You need to remember that it is supported. It will support you to create RESTful web services. Okay. Now, we all know what is an annotation, right? So to implement a method, or to implement any GET request or POST request, what may be the request, there are some annotations provided by this JAX-ARIS library. Right, just before we saw about how you do that in Spring Boot. In JAX-ARIS, there are different annotations. In Spring Boot, what annotations we kept here? We kept get mapping annotation for GET request. I'll show you that in Jersey framework. Give me a second. So this is how you will package everything. This is a standard format how you package everything in different packages. It's like a structure, good structure. You need to follow the standards. So sorry, wait. Let me. Okay. So, and you will keep the specific classes that were belong to that the configuration details in one package, the database in another package, the service implementation in one package. This is the resource. Okay. So, yeah. Here, what is the annotations you used here? It is get annotation. In Spring Boot, if you see, it is get mapping. Spring Boot, it is okay. In get mapping. While in Jersey, Jax Aris, what is that? It is get annotation. These are all the packages you imported. Java X dot that. Okay. You need to import all these packages to use these annotations, and there are several methods you will going to override. So yeah, this get annotation will say that this method is like is for get request, and path annotation. It will say, let's say, along with the request, you are passing some IDE. Along with the request, let's say you want to get ID of a particular employee. So you will be passing the IDE here. Here you can pass any ID. It is actually a parameter. So that is why you kept that in brackets. So slash, wait. So you are saying slash, brackets ID. That means you will be passing an ID along with the request whom you want to see the details of. Okay, you all got it clear? You will be passing an ID along with the request here. It will be appended. That ID will be appended to the URL. Okay. And the common path for everything is slash employees. It will be specified by at path. At path, you will be specifying the common path for everything. For common path for everything is employees. So after the URL, after the port number and everything, give me a second. And here after the port number, employees slash will be common for everything. Okay. And here for get request, you need to pass the ID of employee. And for what is for post request, it is what you will be. You are not passing any ID or something. You are going to add new data, right? So you will say employees. Okay. And okay. So path annotation specify whatever that is you are going to add it to the URL along with the request. That is path annotation. And get, post, put are the annotations specifying what kind of request it is. And there comes a producer's annotation. Producer's annotation is saying the request, saying the response body, what kind of response body, like in which format the response body is going to be. In which format it is going to be. It is going to be in JSON format. It is specifying. We are specifying my response. I want my response to be in JSON format. So you are saying that media type dot application JSON. You want your application to be in XML your response to be in XML format. Then you will say like this. You want in different types. Sometimes you want it to be in XML. Sometimes you want it to be in JSON format. Then you will specify like this, separated by comma, in flower bracket, separated by comma. You will be specifying like this. Okay. That, so now you all understand what add producer says. Add producer says what kind of response you want, in which format you want it. Here, if you want it in XML, you will be getting that in XML format. And you want in JSON, that will be coming in JSON format. You want it HTML, you will be getting that in HTML format. Everything you specify, you will be getting in that kind. Okay. And for post, forget there is no request body, right? Only response will be there. I mean, there will be no request body, you will be having response body. So that's why there is no consumes annotation. Another consumes annotation is what consumes is what kind of request body you will be sending, in which format you will be sending. In JSON, if you are sending in JSON format, see, whatever you specify here will only it will only allow that format here. Let's say you specify JSON here and you want to change it to XML here. It is not possible. Okay. And another thing, if your request is in JSON format, your response should also be in JSON format. Okay. Got it. So consumes, it is request. So the request body you are adding the post, for post save employee. So you are saving the new employee, you are adding new employee to the database. So the request should be in JSON format. Okay. And the response body will also be in JSON format. For put also, you're going to update the details of a specific employee. So it is also taking the ID, if you see, along with path. So let's say for this ID of this employee, you want to update email address or you want to update a phone number of that employee. Then what you're going to do, you are like, you need to pass the ID, which employee details you want to update. So it is specified by path annotation. And same for put also, we'll have request body and response body, and you will be specifying here. Okay. So what annotations we discussed in Jessie framework right now? Okay, annotations over. Now coming to Jessie framework. What annotation we discussed for building REST API for REST Jessie framework? Now we are building REST API. What annotations? To specify the methods, we'll have get and add post, add put, and add delete. Okay, for specifying the methods. And for specifying the body, that is the request body. For request body format, actually, sorry, response body format. Okay. And what does consumes annotations do? It will tell you the request body format. Okay. And what any other annotations were it till now? Path. So it is variables, or you gonna pass you will be passing with URL. Okay. You all clear until now? I'm not hearing any responses from you, or you are bored, or am I being too fast? You're understanding everything, right? No, any responses? You all can hear me, right? Okay, thanks. In Jersey framework, these are the annotations we will be used, and yeah, there are several other I'm going to explain. And okay, thank you so much for the responses. What is this path param? So path param is, see, this, the difference between path and path param is, path is requesting, you will be sending that one particular value along with that, right? So you are going to map that with one in your database. You are passing this ID, you are saying it as ID, you are naming that variable as IDE. In database, that may be referred by something else. Let me show you. Here you are saying what? Int ID. So that ID should be mapped to this. Okay, you need to say, okay, the one they are passing, the value, that ID they are passing is the employee ID. So you are mapping it. You are mapping this ID to employee ID. So you are saying the one they passed is the employee ID, along with the pass, whatever they pass, they are mapping that to one in database. Consumes, can you explain in short? Yeah. Consumes the request body format. Here you are sending the request, right, for post, let's say for post I kept JSON. So if you say JSON here, I am sending the body in JSON format. So I mean, I say JSON, I said consume JSON here. Let's say you mentioned here, you mentioned XML here. Then you need to send your body in XML only. Okay. Whatever in which format you are going to send your request body, that format is defined by consumes annotation. At consumes, like what type of format it is consuming. Okay, remember like that. Wait. Okay, and okay, someone is saying something. Okay, yeah, and path param, as someone said, yeah, whatever the value you are passing along with the path. If you are passing some ID, it is going to assign it, or it is going to map that to one in database. Like, oh, the value it is saying, okay, along with the path, they are sending some value that it is going to store. That is path param. It is defined by that annotation. Okay, you all clear with path param? Path param. Okay. So map values send along with path. Any another annotations we used here? These are the in most cases, these are the annotations we will be using to build REST API. There are several other annotations provided by Jersey framework. You can see them here. And yeah, get, post, head, delete, header param, cookie param, produces, consumes, query param, okay, form param, options. There are several annotations based on your purpose, or based on your your necessity. You are going to use those annotations. Annotations make it easy, right? So whenever you say an annotation, or you specify an annotation at a method, what it will basically tell that compiler that this method is going to perform this thing before head. Okay. And yeah, okay, one more new term, dependencies. Have you heard this word dependencies before? Dependencies. What are dependencies, or what is a dependency? Wait, I'm getting some responses. You describe as a difference between path variable, request param, query param, and path param. Yeah. Is there a request param here? That is from Spring Boot, right? That is in Spring framework. Request body. You are asked. Wait, I'm confused. Actually, one request param, path param. Are you asking in Jersey framework, right? You are asking these annotations in Jersey framework. Yeah. Let me write it here. I'll explain. Okay. Yeah. So path variable annotation is in Spring Boot. Actually, it is provided by the Spring Boot. What you need to know is just like as get mapping is similar to get annotation, path variable is similar to this path param annotation. One is provided by Spring Boot, another one is provided by the Jersey framework. Both the frameworks are doing the same thing, like what you say, why you use them, then the requirement is same, or the function they do is same, just the names are different. Just like how you do get mapping here, but you use get here. In Jersey framework, you will be using get here. Both say that they are mean that this is a get method. Both indicate that this is a get method, just the names are different. That is based on the framework. Okay. And yeah, someone is saying something. Okay. Dilip, you got what I said. Different parameter. Okay. Yeah. Those are different the purpose of them is same, but the names are different. Okay. Yeah. And what we are discussing about dependencies, right? And what does a dependency mean? Have you heard this? Okay, someone said it is like a data library, and the other person said they are like injections. Okay. And what else? Hello, can you hear me? I lost my network in a minute. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you. You can share, you can see my screen as well, right? So, okay. So, if you can see here, these are all the dependencies, like whatever the packages you are going to use in your program, in your application, the versions, like the metadata. It will, these dependencies will tell you like what kind of, if you see here, what is the version we are using, it is the latest version, that is 2.38. And this properties tag will tell you that this form.xml
Ma'am, your voice is not audible.
Yeah. Okay. Let me share my screen again. I think it's lost. You can all see my screen.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Okay, we are back. So we are discussing about the dependencies, right? So for like if you want to build your REST API using Jersey framework, you need to add some dependencies into your pond.xml. Let me show you. Okay, sorry, wait. Yeah. So these are the dependencies you need to add. You just have to search the name of the dependency into your Maven marketplace, and you will get the latest version, artifact ID, group ID, like all the details of that dependency. You just need to copy that and add into your pond.xml. So these are the mandatory or like the necessary dependencies you need to add to build the REST API using Jersey framework. Okay, you need to remember them. Like first time it will be difficult, but whenever you build like 2 to 3 applications, you will get used to them. What annotation, sorry, what dependencies I need to include. Why? Because like if you want to implement something, let's say you want to add get annotation, you will say get at get, and you don't have that import in your program. Definitely it will suggest, it will be the IDE, you are using Eclipse IDE or you are using IntelliJ IDE, it will suggest you need to import this uh, uh, so actually it is not resisting now, but it will, because I already imported them. So when you don't import them, if you want to use them, it will suggest like you need to import this package into your program, and then when the dependency is not added, it will tell you. But yeah, in Spring Boot, what happens? You all know in Spring Boot, dependency management happens like the latest version and the compatible version, it will adjust by itself. You don't need to manually configure it. But one thing you need to in Jersey is you need to manually configure everything in an XML format. You need to manually configure the port, the path. I'll show you where it is. There will be an XML here. Okay, yeah, this is it. So in this in web.xml in Jersey framework, you need to manually write everything like the servlet mapping. This is not it. Okay. So this is the file you need to manually configure whenever you are using Jersey framework, that is web.xml. Here you need to specify the package name, the resource name, the port number, everything you need to specify in this XML file, and what kind of version you are using. What see, in com.example package, you stored all these configuration details, the presentation, all the service, everything you kept in com.example package. So that you need to specify, and you need to specify the port also somewhere here, and then what so whenever, wait, yeah, so URL pattern is REST. So for everything here, REST is rest is before everything. Here there is rest actually. You all can see my screen and hear me well, right? Yeah, fine. So rest will be common for everything. So when after rest, whatever you keep, that will be mapped automatically. That is because if you see here, you kept rest slash star. So whatever that is there after rest slash employees ID, get employees, whatever that is there, it will be mapped automatically using the servlet mapping itself. It will map that. Okay, this which will map the servlet container will map whatever the requests that are there in this pattern, that is slash rest followed by whatever, it will map that to particular request in the presentation layer. That is the controller here if you see. Okay. In which package? In com.example package. So the one thing you can't say it is a disadvantage, but kind of time consuming, right? So the one thing you need to learn or you need to know is writing this web.xml, manually configuring them. If you want to use this framework provided by Java. Okay. Yeah. And implementation of get method, we already discussed everything. If you want to look at it once again, you can. Okay. So implementation of post method, how the post method, okay, we already saw that. Okay. ma'am. Go 1-2 minutes. Hello, ma'am. ఇంకొక 1-2 minutes లో అయిపోతుంది మ్యామ్. So for Jersey framework, if you want to use this Jersey framework, you need to manually write this web.xml, and we are discussing about filters, right? So have you anyone heard have you heard about this logging, auditing, monitoring before? Can anyone say what is logging? You all can hear me, right? Have you heard logging before? What is, okay, logging is a process of trace out of the error. Yeah. So like whatever, how this request response happens, everything, if you want to trace out like where does, if there is an error, in case of error, it is easy to find actually if you log everything. I'll show you. I already implemented logging using Spring framework. See, we implemented the logging thing. It will log everything onto the console. Okay. Everything means everything related to your request response and the body, the URI you send, the method, headers along with the request. Forget there is no request body. That's why it is empty. And whatever the response you got, it logged everything. Right. And again, yeah, and the headers too, response status, response headers, and response body. This is the response body you got. This can be done both in Jersey framework and in Spring Boot framework using filters. Using filters means they are nothing but the packages and again the dependencies you need to add. This is some additional thing that is provided by these frameworks. Where you are using this REST API, there is a common thing. Somewhere there is some error in request or response. You can easily trace out that whenever you use logging. Whenever you got a bad request, see 400 like that, you can see everything on your console, where it went wrong, and it says warning. That means there is some issue. When you got some issue, it will log that onto your console and you can able to see that where it went wrong. Okay, that can be implemented using filters and interceptors. both in Jersey framework and Springboot. Okay. This logging can be done using filters and interceptors in both Jersey and Springboot framework. That is, I'll show you it. I'll show you it how it is. See, I have to implement this interface to override the methods of that interface, so I can use the functionalities of that. This client HTTP request interceptor is provided by the Springboot framework for logging, and I overrided this method called intercept. So see, this is logging the request, the URI, the method, headers, everything, and it is logging the response as well. Okay. So basically what you need to know is it is providing some default classes and interfaces which you can implement and override the methods of those interfaces and use the functionalities of that. Both Spring Boot and this JAX-RS is providing those classes. See, these filters you need to implement in your classes to use the functionalities. Client request filter, client response filter. On server side, container request filter and container response. And Spring Boot annotations, again, you all already saw. If at the beginning of the class, you will say REST controllers, indicating that this is a presentation layer or this is a controller. And I'll show you. We already went through it. Again, I'll show you. See, this get mapping is to say that this is get request, and this request body annotation is same as that path param. Sorry, not path param. Request param. Here there is a request param, right? Like that here request body. Whatever the body you are sending along with the request, you need to specify it using request body. And REST controller at the beginning of the class saying that this class is controller. What are the other things? Path variable, again, it is the same. Whatever the variable you are sending along with the path. Request mapping is similar to the one if you are passing some variable along with the request and you need to map that variable with the one inside the repository or database. And request param, see, yeah, you are passing some parameter along with your request or some like say ID or name you will be passing, that you will call it as request param. Okay. Response entity is nothing but the response you got which has the status code and headers and body. Everything is same in both Jersey framework and Spring Boot framework, just the annotations is differs. And one thing you need to remember is in Jersey you need to manually configure this web.xml. You need to write the configurations like that may be a path or that may be a version or and that may be the package. You need to specify them manually. But in Spring Boot, what it will do is it will manage everything. There is a dependency management in Spring Boot, if you know. It is a main advantage of Spring Boot, why many prefer Spring Boot. Okay, and there is an interceptors in Spring Boot 2, filters in interceptor 2. These are the classes you need to implement if you want to do logging on. Someone say something? Okay. Okay. And these are the methods you will be overriding, like how you will handle the request before hitting the presentation layer, after. There are several methods. I'm not briefly explaining about anything because this is just a 3-hour workshop and it is not possible to cover 360 degrees. To let you know how we teach in Encode IT, how the process happens, how you to familiarize with us, how this training, how the explain thing or how the training goes, what kind of topics we can cover. There are several courses available in Encode IT. You can go through the curriculum, you can contact the admin team, and if you are interested, you can register in one of those courses. And there you will get hands-on sessions, you will able to do hands-on projects as well. You will be able to do a real-time project. This is just I'm explaining the theory and I'm showing the code, but there what we will do is we will like start from the scratch. We'll take like an empty, we'll start from the basic project, how to start a project, how you build that, everything. No theory, only hands-on coding is explained there. You will be able to do on your own by the end of the project or by the end of the course. You will be able to develop your own application. That we can guarantee you. That is why it's not possible. You see, right? It's not possible to cover everything in 3-hour workshop, right from the scratch. Okay, I covered most of the part that were necessary and important. How a different framework support REST API and how actually a REST API is. Okay, and if there is a full-time course on this, you can register for it. There you will be able to do hands-on sessions and different projects. And after this, you will be having a session on UI technologies like HTML, JavaScript, CSS. Interested people can join, and if you have some friends who might be interested, let them know too. Let them join that session. I guess the link is already posted in the chat window. If you see, it is posted there. And for the contents and PTA and whatever, again, for listening to 3-hour patiently. Thank you all. Thank you for attending to this session. Like this is a 3-hour session. That is why I can't, I mean, I'm unable to cover everything briefly. If you register for a full-time course, then we can like have a hands-on session. We can do several projects. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So there will be several other benefits if you register a course. To let you how this Encode IT works and how it helps you get learn all those topics. This workshop is conducted, and there are many other workshops we are going to conduct. You can join them, and you can join the full-time courses as well if you are interested. You can contact the admin team. They'll provide the list of courses we are offering, and you can register into one of them. Yeah. I hope you all enjoyed this, or at least up to somewhere my network went bad. And thank you all for attending the session. Interested people can join that front-end technologies, that UI session too. Yeah, thank you very much. Any doubts you can ask me regarding the courses or some registration, how to register. You need to ask the admin team. Or not, it is not my B, it is my another trainer. I guess it's, I don't know. I don't know the name, but yeah, they'll explain it very well. Interested people can join there. Just You can join. There is today is Sunday, right? You can join and listen to her as well. You might experience, you might get to learn some new things you haven't learned before. Okay. Any doubts you can ask me or you can leave. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for attending for like 3 hours continuously. Thank you so much. Any doubts you can stay back and ask me or else you can leave. I guess there are no doubts. Okay, fine. Thank you all.